What's going on, everybody? I'm Max Kellerman. Welcome to this Just In, a fast hour around the world of sports and how I see it. That's Dave Jacoby. He puts the Jacoby in Jalen and Jacoby, and that is Pelican star CJ McCollum. Let's begin with great, greater, and greatest. Game 2 NBA Finals. Great, Jordan Poole. He got a lot of burn in Game 1, but in Game 2, he showed up and did a little Steph Curry imitation at times and gave him a little extra punch they needed. Steph ain't the only one creating a little offense. Greater, Draymond Green. Draymond really set the tone of this game emotionally early, and the Warriors followed suit. He's one of those guys, not only plays with his heart on his sleeve, but obviously, people say a high IQ player. I think he's just a high IQ person. He understands what is needed in the moment and gives it to them. But greatest, listen, this hasn't happened a lot, and I've been critical of it. In the finals, in a game you got to have, in the second half, can you be the best player on the floor? Well, last night, the answer for Steph Curry was an emphatic yes. Steph Curry and the Warriors dominated in the third quarter, outscoring the Celtics by 21. In the final 4:30 of the quarter, they went on a 19-2 run, 5 of 6 from 3. CJ, last night, Steph stepped up in the second half of a finals game the Warriors needed. That is not something that has happened a lot on the non-KD Warriors. Sorry, everybody, I have to be the one to say it. It's just true. You can go look it up if you don't believe me. Go rewatch the games. Can he keep rising to that level of clutch play if that's what the Warriors need to win these finals?
I absolutely think he can. I think he will, based on previous evidence of his performance when it matters. He can hit big shots. He can shoot off the dribble. He can shoot off the movement, and they're going to need more movement because the offense gets stagnant when they play one-on-one. Klay can't really generate shots off the bounce right now. Poole is starting to generate shots, but not being as consistent as he was in past. But I think it's on his shoulders to be efficient, to be effective, to be consistent. But this series will be one with the role players. Klay Thompson has to step up. Poole has to step up, and we need to see more of that Draymond going forward.
Man, Klay is going to have a game where he gets supernova hot, right? And chalk that one up to the Warriors right now. Jacoby, can you describe Draymond Green's impact in Game 2? And is there some blueprint in there to beat the Celtics?
What he did in Game 2 was just so impressive. Steph, as CJ said, was clearly the best player on the Warriors, but Draymond was the most impactful in this win. The very first possession, he just bum rushes Al Horford and tries to grab the ball. And then there throughout, just deflections. And then they started him on Horford. Then he played Brown, which people didn't really pick up on, but he was the one, look at him, closing out Brown in the corner, starting the transition. He was just so nasty. And you know what else he did? He started it with everybody. We all know about the Jaylen Brown incident, but he went back and forth with Tatum, went back and forth with Horford, went back and forth with Ime Udoka. He was saying, you know what? I am the emotional leader of this team, and we might lose, but we're not going to get punked. I'm going to make sure of that. And he did. And I would say that he was the most impactful Warrior last night.
So, CJ, you mentioned Klay. Why do you think he's struggled so far in this series?
I think it's a combination of things. When you look at what he's gone through historically, right? He's played well when they needed him most. I've guarded him a lot. He's great without the ball. He's active. He usually has pop in his step. He usually has pop in his jump shot. And I think he's a little flat right now. I think some of it is mental. Some of it is physical. He's only played 15 to 20 games in the regular season, came back, had to go right into the playoffs. Last game they had him guarding Al Horford. That's a big man. So takes a lot on your legs. He's banging down low. He did a great job. They switch a lot. I think all of that is kind of taking a toll on him, but look for him to get going. I'm sure he's in the gym. I joked earlier, he has irrational confidence. I have irrational confidence, so he's not worried about these games, these performances. He's more so worried about getting 3 more wins and getting his next ring.
I mean, catastrophic injuries, one to one, then to another leg, to both your wheels. You don't play in 900 games. It's amazing that he's already this good, but you are still concerned about Klay, of course.
I'm concerned about Klay, right? He is not the old Klay. We don't see the step. He's not getting past people on the drives. He's not knocking down. He had a wide open shot in the corner last night that I just assumed was going in that he missed. However, this also isn't the old Warriors. They don't need him like they did the pre-KD Warriors. They've found Jordan Poole who can create his own shot, and they've got Andrew Wiggins on the wing who can contribute. So they don't need the production from Klay like they needed him in the previous iterations of this dynasty. But, as you mentioned earlier, don't let this go to a Game 6 and have Game 6 Klay come up. We saw what happened in elimination games in the previous 2 series. Like, we're all saying, are we concerned about Klay, But guess what? He can just pop up, Score 30, easy.
Klay, like, again, I'm not saying he can get as hot as anyone who ever lived. He can get hotter than anyone who ever lived. Whoever lived. I remember the year he had 37 and a quarter. He had another quarter with 20. Imagine just dropping 26 and a quarter, and that's your second best quarter of the year.
Wow.
I mean, he's incredible, yeah. CJ, you have experience playing against the Warriors. You mentioned it. How are they able to take their game to another level in that third quarter, in the coach's quarter, right?
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't beat us in all those third quarters all these years, we'd probably have a chance to go to the finals. But what's done is done. I think they have a high level of accountability, a high level of maturity, understanding of what needs to be done after halftime. It starts with Steve Kerr. He usually draws up a great game plan. ATOs are generally on point. He joked he steals plays from everyone. He's done a great job of stealing different things from everywhere he's come from.
Allen borrows, genius steals.
Exactly. Exactly. They go zone out of certain possessions. They go random traps. Draymond's a roamer. He's a freelancer. Look at the matchups. Look at the rotations, taking Dre out, putting GP in. He's done all those little things to kind of give them an advantage, and it all started, a few years ago when he took over.
Jacoby, what stood out to you in the third quarter for the Warriors?
We're all used to watching the third quarter Warriors and this offensive barrage when they're hitting threes, they're getting out in transition. I'm sitting on my couch last night watching the game saying, this third quarter dominance is more about the other side of the ball. It was really what they were doing defensively against the Celtics that really stood out to me, because it wasn't just a bunch of threes. Look at that. That's Jason Tatum just throwing the ball to the other team, causing turnovers, rotations, like getting out in transition. It was really their defense which sparked their offense in the third quarter last night, which was different than previous iterations of the third quarter Warriors.
You mentioned the difference between, forget about the KD Warriors. They were unbeatable. How are you going to beat the KD? KD joins that team, forget it, right? But what Harrison Barnes and Iguodala had to do on that team is now Wiggins and Poole, more or less, right? Mm-hmm. And that's maybe a little bit more offensive firepower. Defensively, Steph has always been a present defender. He's always put some effort in, just not built like a defender. But he's more built like a defender now, CJ, than he used to be, right? He's bulked up. He, over the years, has become more of a presence even on defense, which is saying something for a guy who has to worry about so much on offense.
He's one of the most well-conditioned athletes I've ever seen, regardless of sport. Constantly moving without the ball. Constantly dribbling, constantly passing, hitting threes when he's tired, hitting threes from deep. But you look at last night, defensively, he was more engaged, he was more active. He understood that this game needed to have a different level of urgency than game one. They go down 0-2, series is over, and they knew that. He got switched on to Al Horford, held him up in the post, forced a tough jump hook. He was switching on to Jaylen Brown. He was switching on to Jason Tatum. And at times they seen the double, but they were letting him hold his own on an island, which shows you the confidence Kerr, Draymond, and the rest of the staff have in him.
Sounds funny. I didn't think even if they dropped game two, it was over. They are so much more experienced. Do I think they could go take a couple on the road? I do. But the Celtics are much, much, much less experienced. And you're seeing this show up now. You mentioned the kind of careless turnovers that the Warriors used to make, right?
Yes.
Is this now a must-win game for the Celtics in game three?
No, but it is an important game. You look at the statistics historically. Game 3 is a deciding factor when it's 1-1, and then game 5 when it's 2-2 is a huge deciding factor from a probability standpoint. But I think all in all, the Warriors need to be afraid, they need to be worried because they dropped that first game. Although they've been in control most of the series, it's been even. That third quarter has kind of shifted things for them. But Boston plays well on the road. They've shown that we can go in and win a game 6 on the road or at home, and we can go in and win a game 7 on the road or at home. So Warriors, be aware, the Celtics team is serious.
Warriors got to be road warriors now. You got to take one. You gave it up. You got to take one on the road. Jacoby, what kind of shape do you think the Warriors are in here in game 3, one apiece?
You have to feel good if you're the Warriors after these two games, because the way they lost the first game was that fourth quarter, just 3 shooting barrage from the Celtics. But when Steph Curry can proverbially untie his sneakers at the end of the third quarter, they were not coming back in.
Right.
And when you saw, and Ime Udoka at some point just put in the white flag lineup too, if you can dominate a team like that, it seemed like the Celtics were like, you know what, we got game 1, we missed our opportunity here. So you have to feel good about the Warriors, not just that they got the win, the way they got the win.
Let me just say, the reason I feel good about the Warriors, and I know people, you're down on Steph, it's not that. I've seen too many times earlier in his career, okay, you don't have an overwhelming advantage. KD's not there, right before KD got there and since he's been there. What are you going to do now when it's 50-50? And late in games, maybe because he was injury prone, because he's smaller, whatever it is, when I felt like, okay, now Steph, I didn't always see that. Last night, what I saw was a guy with total mastery, with the experience, with everything. In crunch time, put the game away, didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter. If that Steph is here to stay, you can say whatever you want about the role players. I like the Warriors' chances, period. This just interruption. Nothing unusual here. Just Boban Marjanovic.